Welcome everybody to another episode of Tough Conversations with David Wood. I'm joined with my friend Adam Lewis Walker in the studio. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks, David. Happy to catch up with you again. And this is going to be an interesting, hopefully not too tough for us, but we're going to be obviously talking about some interesting interactions and some cool subjects.
Yeah. What we're going to do on this episode is something I haven't done before. We're going to really break down an actual tough conversation that happened between me and Adam. And I was like, would you be willing to come on the show and we'll break it down for people, like how it felt for me before and my temptation to stay silent, like I can't say that to him. And then I'm going to recreate for people, I'm going to recreate for you guys the actual video that I sent to Adam. So you'll hear what an overture, a reach out might sound like if you're going to reach out to someone about something potentially awkward. And then we're going to, I want Adam's experience. We're going to hear from him. What was it like for him to receive that from the other side? First, let me read your bio. I want people to know a little bit about you, Adam. Adam Lewis Walker is a leadership speaker, TEDx, 2 times best-selling author and coach. He hosts the top-ranked podcast, Awaken Your Alpha, interviewing the world's elite minds in over 370 episodes. Adam helps aspiring TEDx speakers to achieve their own talk through his Talk Accelerator program. He shares how to get a TEDx talk through the complimentary Talk Accelerator podcast. Adam, is there anything else you want people to know about you? For context?
Oh, well, no, as if everyone's seeing me looking distracted, I've just shared this on my Facebook page because we're trying something new. And so I've just done that. And as a man, I can't multitask too much. So no, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm all about amplifying your message, your mission. So through the podcast, Awaken Your Alpha, and then the Talk Accelerator is that more specific is obviously a tool in terms of amplifying your mission. Is the TEDx has been a really useful platform for me in everything I do, and also podcasting and publishing books. So we got there. But I know we're not here to talk about that. But that's it. You know, I'm excited to dig into this.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I get you with multitasking. We're streaming this live to Facebook and YouTube. And if you guys want to leave any comments or questions, then I can flash those up on the screen and we can address those as they happen. So all right, let's talk about, the topic is when you're tempted to stay silent, when you're tempted to not speak up, resist that temptation, speak up. So here's what happened from my side with Adam is, Adam, I had gifted you a coaching session. I said, I want to invest in their relationship.
Yeah, I interviewed you for this, Awaken Your Alpha, and then this was kind of like,
yeah, we've done an interview. I'm like, I want to give you a session. You're like, yeah. And then we'd set the session. And then when the session time came, I was there and you weren't there. And look, I've had that before. That happens. You know, there are no shows, and I never like it.
I've had it in the last week. It happens a lot, but you know, in sometimes. But maybe if people listen to your method, it will happen less. We should see.
Maybe. So I didn't like that. I never like it when it happens, but it's not really that big a deal. Then the message I got from you was, hey, my bad. You know, I made a mistake. It was Thanksgiving, and I spaced. I've adjusted it to the next week. And that's where, and at the moment, I couldn't tell you what happened. I just knew I didn't feel good. And I was contracted, and I was like scrunching up my face, and I knew I didn't want to do the coaching session. So the first thing I want to bring out for people is I didn't have clarity. And that's often what happens. Something happens, we just don't like it. And my temptation was to walk away and to not have the coaching session and just say, I'm busy. I'm not going to do it now. I resisted that temptation.
I'm glad you did.
Thank you. But before we dig further into that, because I really want to break it down and go slowly with it, before we get into that, let's talk about some other examples, because I don't want people to think that this interview is about when someone stands you up or someone's a no-show and someone's late. It is about that, but it's about so much more. I had someone send me an event link on Facebook Messenger with no context, haven't heard from her for 6 months. It felt like spam to me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I had that temptation to just cut her off. I was just going to hit block. So easy on Facebook. I just hit block. So a woman last night was sharing that if she's at a party with friends and she's cuddling with a couple of people and someone else comes up and starts cuddling with them, like, oh, you know, I'm going to join. She's like, how do I speak up and say, hey, I've chosen to cuddle with them. I haven't said yes to you. Would you ask first?
Yeah.
So I can say yes or no. So those are some examples that came to my mind. They don't have to be huge, like earth-shattering things for it to be a tough conversation. It can just be something that doesn't feel good to you and you're tempted to stay silent. I wonder, Adam, if you can think if any other examples come to mind of things that might seem small.
Actually, while I'm listening to you, loads did. But again, I don't want to repeat too many similar ones. But, you know, just in the last week, you know, I had a similar thing where someone just sent me a link to something with no context as well. And it, you know, it's the obvious thing. The innocent thing is you just like you say, you just sort of, you don't look at it, you just leave it. But, you know, I like this guy and I was like, I thought, no, I'm going to just, you know, have that mini tough conversation and just like, what's this about? Like, what, you know, why, I just asked the question, why are you sending it to me? Like, can you give me a bit of context? I don't understand, basically. And then, you know, he basically said, you're not the only person who's mentioned this. And, you know, I obviously wasn't thinking, or no apologies. And because actually, then I thought, this is got me intrigued. So I watched it and honestly, there was no real, I still didn't get why he sent it to me. I thought it was going to be really obvious. So it's a micro conversation, but I like your approach to things. It's an approach to life, like anything you do. So this can be on quite a big scale, and I've always had, and I love the conversation we had off the back of, you know, me dropping the ball, because a lot of times once you dig, there's usually some more context behind it and a reason, like that person was rushed or something was going on, so they maybe wasn't as much due diligence as they normally did, or they didn't think when they acted so much. Or a lot of times they're trying to, I can talk about myself as well. You're trying to, I don't know, you're trying to not make a big deal of it. So you're trying to just kind of like, just trying to move on without standing and like holding your hands up fully and acknowledging like either the mistake or the thing that you shouldn't let slide. So yeah, I mean, that happens all the time. And it's probably why I'm not employed in a classic job anymore, because there would be, you know, meetings at schools or colleges, and things would get raised up where a lot of people would say they might think that's not a big deal, or just keep your head down, don't rock the boat. And I would rock the boat, and you know, after a while, it depends on if it's well received or not. You're not just raising these things to be awkward. You're actually like, it may seem minor, but that's actually not a minor thing. That's going to cause repercussions down the line, and either like the work environment, culture, and then it leads on to bigger issues.
Yeah, I love what you said about micro conversations. It's true. We know the big conversations, like, oh, you know, I did something that could put me in jail, or I could confess something to my partner and they might leave me. I screwed up at work, I might get fired. So those are the huge conversations, but these micro conversations that seem trivial, and we say exactly what you said, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. So let's dive into this example. You're a no-show, and then I got that language that I felt triggered by, said, I've adjusted it to the next week. So the first thing I did, there are 4 steps to a tough conversation.
Yeah. Shall I say my side of how that led up to that as well? I mean, just
no, I don't think we need that yet. I want to give it from the point of view. From the point of view of someone bringing a conversation. So people are going to come into my world, and then after I recreate the video, I want to hear how it was for you to get that video.
You have to try and remember, but it should all come back.
Yeah. So and I have here your response. You wrote a really beautiful response.
I was going to try and find that response.
Yeah. So there are 4 steps to a tough conversation. First step is clarity. You got to work out why am I upset? And if I was going to have a conversation, what would be my hope out of it? And what's my fear? Why am I afraid to have this conversation? So the clarity is really important. And I went through and it took me like half an hour to get some clarity. Then the next step and this is what I attempted to do in the video, is you ask permission to have the conversation, and then you share the issue, assuming you get permission. And if you have a request, this is a great place to make it. And I had to really dig hard to find a request. And then the fourth step is you listen. You listen and find out how it is for the other person and what ideas they have. You get collaborative. So I'm going to attempt to do that now. I'm going to recreate the video that I sent to you. I like videos because I get to get my thoughts down. And the first draft I did, Adam, wasn't very good. It was better than nothing.
Yeah.
But it didn't cover all the 4 steps, and it could have triggered you. So I'm going to recreate now because I can't find the actual video. All right, so just give me a minute and a half, and I'm going to go back in time, and this is what Adam heard over Loom video. Hey, Adam, I want to have a conversation with you about the mix-up that happened when you didn't show for the call, and I wonder if you'd be willing to hear my side of it. If you're not, now's a good time to stop the video, and if you are, please continue watching. And I notice I'm tempted to not bring it up because I don't want to make a big thing of it, and I don't want you to think I'm high maintenance or I'm oversensitive. And I don't want you saying to people, that guy's just a jerk. So I'm tempted to not bring it up, but I've decided I do want to bring it up because I want to feel really good about giving you a coaching session, and I want to dive into your goals, and I want us to have a really great working relationship. So again, if you don't want to hear it, press pause or stop the video. And if you do, I'll keep going. So the issue is, now I'm assuming you're a yes. The issue is, when you didn't show, I didn't feel good. But when you said you adjusted it to the next week, I started to feel like my time wasn't being respected. And, you know, to me, it wasn't an adjustment. It was a no-show, and that's half an hour I'm not going to get back. And I'd like you to ask me if I'm willing to reschedule, because I may not be, instead of assuming. So I had to dig deep to find out what my request would be, because I was just annoyed. I'm like, what could I ask Adam for that would have me feel better about this? And I came up with 3 things. 1, I'd like to hear that you respect my time. It's hard for me to ask that, but I'd like to hear that. 2, I'd like to know that you get the impact of not showing, that was half an hour that I could have used for something else. And 3, I'd like to hear that you're committed to showing up on time for the next call. And that's a lot to ask, I think, but that's what would have me feel good about it. So I'd love to hear how it is for you to hear all this. Is it weird? Is it offensive? Are you triggered? Are you inspired, or something in between? I'd love to hear anything you got. End message.
Do you want? I've just found my actual response. I know you've probably got it as well. Shall I read that out?
You know, I'm more interested in I like the response too. I read through it. It was so awesome. You know, I got your response, and I had a response to that. But just in your own words,
okay,
if you can remember, what was it like to get that message from the other side of a tough conversation?
Good, but also it was awkward. Good, awkward, and also because, you know, we were just getting to know each other, so I didn't know, and there was a few kind of hopes in terms of around the obviously, because you're Australian, right, originally, correct?
Yep.
And I'm from England, and we're both in the States at the time of this. So there was a piece of me that was, I understood the reality, this is unlikely. There's a piece of me that was hoping, oh, it's Thanksgiving, you've kind of blocked off your day, there's some kind of a mistake here. Realistically, I knew that was unlikely. Once I'd realized, oops, it's, and then I think I got the alert that the meeting's on. By the time I got to it and, as I said, adjusted it, it was in the meeting or during the meeting or literally past the meeting. So there was a small piece of me that's like, oh, you never know. Hopefully you're out having Thanksgiving.
Yeah, maybe it's not a thing.
Yeah. There was a small piece of me that was hoping maybe you're going to turn around and say, it's Thanksgiving. I assumed it was a mistake, but you know, I know you're not originally from America. I'm not. So yeah. So number one, what is like, oh, you've called me out. Like this, this didn't slide or slip under the radar. So yeah, I mean, I got someone some of my to put me back in the mind. So it was number one. I was like, oh, so that did cause some, you know, an issue, and I was hoping it didn't put you out. Clearly, it did. And then the second thing is, I'm so glad you mentioned it, because like you say, the majority of people do not. They will just be like the reverse of what you said about, you know, they would just be like, oh, this Adam, he's, you know, he's whatever. That's the end of that. And I would have been in the dark. Maybe you could have like rescheduled the next appointment or cancelled it and said, oh, I got a few things on. I would have kind of been, okay, fair enough. And I would have been, it's that ignorance. I would have been just thinking, oh, things are okay. But you would have been like, that little, my name for whatever would be always associated with that guy who didn't show up to our meeting. And
yeah.
So yeah, no, I was really relieved, because I know that stuff goes on, and there's probably lots floating around where, you know, the person's completely oblivious, and there's kind of that vibe attached to their relationship or name, or yeah. So I was really relieved, and then also like, whoa, you know, I don't want. That is, you know, not how I'm thinking about this, and unfortunately, I think the reason it was on a Thanksgiving Day is because I think our original time we'd booked in was, it came round, and I really valued your time, and I hadn't prepared. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, there's lots going on. I don't think it's going to be very valuable either way. I want to make sure I'm ready, and so I just moved it to a further date, which happened to be Thanksgiving, and again, where I should have blocked out. So. Yeah, it was.
You bring up a really interesting point about, like, had I not brought it up, you would never have known.
Nope.
I could have just said I'm busy and not gotten around to rescheduling with you.
I would have got that. I would have been like, I get it, you know.
And we'd be distant. So that's the temptation. That's the core of this episode.
That's tempted. The easy route. That's the, you know, the lazy route, basically.
The lazy route. Yeah. You know, a friend of mine just posted a comment on one of my videos. There was some anger in the comment, and this person posted some things that could hurt the reputation of somebody, and I just tempted to just delete and just not interact, right? And I may do that, like that's still an option.
Yeah.
But if I do that, that's going to create distance forever between me and that person. So if I want to invest in the relationship, and I invite people around the world to do more investment in their relationships. Don't just write them off. If I'm willing to invest, it's going to take a tough conversation, which could be awkward. And you could have a valid option, as you could have gone, oh, I'm not going to interact with this guy. I feel too awkward.
Yeah, I've just seen it. My initial reaction was to avoid, you know, a future conversation.
Yeah.
As a little, you know, but the whole point of like Awaken Your Alpha and your tough conversations, we were literally we'd had an interview about that. So yeah, because again, from you could have kind of just fobbed off we could have just dodged it from your end, and then also when you got this response, I could have said, yeah, I apologize, I get it, I dropped the ball, don't worry about it, I don't want to waste your time, let's leave it. And then it would have, you know, we kind of, even though we kind of acknowledged it, it's still not the best. It's still a little bit awkward. We're like, leave it, and then I may have seen you like a year later or whatever online or even in person, and it would have been a bit like, we should have had that conversation, and we dodged it.
Yeah. So I love how you showed up. It was edgy for me to send that video. It might seem to people listening now that it was easy for me. No, it was hard. I'm like, this guy's going to think that I'm oversensitive, and he's going to be upset with this. But you showed up really well, and I think I did tell you, I hope you say yes, because I want to do the call. I hope we do it. And you did feel embarrassed. You did feel awkward. But you said, this is so cool. Can I mention this video or include this video in our interview when you interviewed me? And I was like, wow, you know, so you encouraged me to have more of these conversations by how you showed up. And thank you for that.
No worries. No, it was really interesting to see it in practice, and, you know, and also acknowledge that, you know, everyone makes mistakes. You know, everyone slips, and it's how you handle it, how you react. Because, like you say, it was a potential for you to think I was an absolute douchebag, or in some ways, now again, depending on how I handled it, it's actually deepened our relationship, and we've had more interactions for it. And it's a very interesting subject.
That's right. That's the outcome that I'm going for generally. I'm hoping. Now, one outcome, even if I don't get that deeper connection with someone else, is I feel expressed. And so I feel better about myself that I spoke up and I gave the other person a chance to step into a space that I've created for them. That's one benefit. But as you've shown in this example, we can sometimes get an external benefit that the other person is impacted in a positive way, and then the relationship does deepen. So I love that. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up this episode? And I will ask people, I will ask you how people can find out about you, but anything you want to say about this topic before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just I do think the quality of your life is massively linked to the tough questions you ask yourself and others. And you obviously asked me some tough questions, and ask yourself them questions as well. And if you dodge them, you may be getting a minor short-term satisfaction of just, burying your head in the sand, as it were, and maybe a slightly easier few minutes or even a day. But them micro decisions or dodging, they will add up. So I do think the quality of your life is linked to the quality of the questions you ask yourself and others. And usually the tougher the conversation, so long as you're not just going out of your way to be an a-hole and ask these tough questions, is going to link to the quality of your life. So yeah, that would just be my thoughts. And that's that's what I really liked, and that's why I really sort of was drawn to your invites to come on this and share different things. And again, you may have put that out, and another person will not be in that mindset, and they're not like it, and they'll push them away. But that's okay, because everyone's different.
That's okay, and maybe that's the way it's supposed to go. And if listeners, if you want the 4-step blueprint to a tough conversation, which includes the worksheet to help you get clarity before you have it, go to playforreal.life, and you can't miss it. 4-step blueprints are free downloaded. Adam, how can people find out more about you if they want to awaken their alpha or they want to create their TEDx show? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so just Adam Lewis Walker on Facebook and all social media. Awaken Your Alpha, Talk Accelerator, talkaccelerator.com as well. If any of you have got a potential, maybe idea worth sharing, and you want to have that tough, it won't be that tough a conversation as we've just had, but if you want to have an opportunity to bounce that idea off me, you can get your complimentary idea clarity call. And I can point you in the right direction for that. And also there's a podcast behind both of them where you get lots of valuable resources from people like David. And then on the Talk Accelerator, specifically TEDx speakers and TEDx organizers on how to achieve their talk. But just, reach out to me and let me know if you got any value out of this and either of the podcasts. So yeah, go from there.
And Talk Accelerator, you drop the E. So it's not talk and then EXC.
No, it's
talk and then XCE.
Yeah,
like that. So Talk Accelerator.
Yeah, and for event planners and that sort of side of things, AdamLewisWalker.com is that sort of website for keynote talks and that side of things.
Yeah. All right, Adam. Thanks for being on the show.
No worries. It's been a pleasure.